Good evening, fellow Ambazonians, fellow viewers. Welcome to interview, a premiere act of the Ambazonian Communication Network, the ACN. My name is Comrade Capo, the Ambazonian Defense Force Deputy Defense Chief. Today we are going to have one of Ambazonian's finest, Mr. Larry Eyong. In this interview, I'm going to conduct this interview together with Mr. Lucas Asu, the press secretary of the Ambazonian Governing Council. You are all highly welcome. And we are going to have an in-depth discussion with Mr. Larry. He was the spokesperson of the SKAKOF and a former journalist of the CRTV, who was the anchor of the Cameroon Calling. So everybody, you're welcome today. And my co-panelist, Mr. Lucas Asu, our press secretary, is right there with us.
Good evening, my fellow Ambazonians. Welcome to the new premiere program on the ACN, the interview. Today we'll be having a great discussion with the former spokesperson of SKAKOF and a journalist with the colonial TV program Cameroon Calling. It's a great Ambazonian patriot. It's a great truth teller. And so today will be one of those things. It will be the truth and nothing but truth. Welcome.
So thank you very much, Mr. Lucas Asu. And welcome, Mr. Larry. You're welcome to the ACN.
Southern Cameroonians, thank you, Ambazonians. We pay tribute to your sacrifice that we at this age cannot do, that of sacrificing with your blood for the freedom of our fatherland. And I want to salute you. Those of you in jail, those of you in the bushes, your fight is a just fight and you will prevail.
Yeah, today we just want to take some moment to acknowledge that we lost one of the forces of the Akamanso. We undergo an operation in Tinto in Manu State, the great state of Manu. There was an operation that was launched by the Akamanso force to flush out one outpost of the B. It was a successful mission. Our boys have returned back to their base. Unfortunately, one of our soldiers, he sacrificed his life during that operation. So we want to acknowledge him. The Defense War Council will be preparing a speech to honor his passing. Once more, Mr. Larry, you are welcome. You're highly welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And let me take the opportunity of paying tribute to this great patriot. In the Second World War, Britain lost a whole generation. They called them the lost generation. Those are those who fought and paid with their lives, made the supreme sacrifice for England not to be a German colony. Today, if the English people are not speaking German, and if the world is not dominated by Hitler and Nazism, it's because people sacrifice their blood. So this is a very important issue. As Bismarck said, if the great problems of the day cannot be solved by parliamentary speeches and debates, let them be solved by blood and iron. We have tried to resolve this matter peacefully. The mandate that was given to the British, prepare Southern Cameroons towards independence and self-government, has been violated. We are neither independent nor are we self-governing. We have been transferred to a new colonial administration. And you can see it. All the deals, all the commanders on the ground, from Boya to Bamenda, are all French-speaking Cameroonians. And we, as a people with a superior Anglo-Saxon culture, cannot accept to be slaves under them. We sympathize with those who are in Yaoundé, who have to be speaking out of fear because they are under the dictatorship. This cannot continue. And we want to salute our young men. They are doing what we could not do. And we are going to, I urge every Southern Cameroonian to give them support, because what they are doing is right. history will remember that these people fought and freed their land from colonialism, from slavery, and that is the just thing to do, although it cost lives, but that is how to spend your lives. As Martin Luther King said, he who has nothing he can die for is not fit to live. A lot of them who are living in Yaoundé are not fit to live. And as I've said it, any leader who takes a dime from the dictatorship of Cameroon to perpetuate the slavery and the domination of our people will die in shame and ignominy. Right from people like Theodore Leke, who sold, and to the Bandams and the Fundis who are living in Yaoundé, that their legacy will be that of shame. I'm saying that because I've worked with them and I know them. They came to Washington and were giving money to little people who were claiming to be leaders. Leaders are known through action, not position. We now know where they stand, but this fight is going to continue.
Mr. Larry, you know this journey we are as a nation going through this tough period of this phase of our liberation movement is great. It's a really story of the personalities that we have come to know since the administration of the Southern Cameroons was basically dissolved by the French Cameroon. We have come to know a lot of personality, and you have worked with the CRTV as an anchor of Cameroon Calling. You have been somebody who have gone through a prestigious school, ERIC, from La République du Cameroon, and like many of our comrades, people used to change their name, like Adamu Musa, people like that, to get into this college. And you had quite a good job. How did you find yourself in the United States of America, abandoning that good life back in the Cameroons? I want to say Cameroons for the two Cameroons.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Capo. When the Lord chooses you to be His servant, you cannot condescend to be anybody's king. The situation in Cameroon was deteriorating, and for the 27 years I've been in the United States, I'd seen it and knew it was going to continue deteriorating. The French have a philosophy, isolement et étouffement. What does that mean? They isolate you and they asphyxiate you. That is what they were doing in the SDF when I was a press secretary of the SDF. It became clear that Frundi had to take a bribe, had to take money, Mbandam had to take money to conform and pretend that we were in a parliamentary system and there's an opposition party. And I saw this masquerade and I could not stand the masquerade anymore. While in Manu, where the SDF won the election for the first time, I was the press secretary of the SDF. The SDF won the presidential election in 1992. People like Agbotabi, may his soul rest in peace, told me that I must wear the CPDM uniform and walk in Manfe. And I told him that you will see, I will not do it. So that is the problem. You make a choice. Two roads separated in the forest. I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. I will never accept dictatorship. I will never accept subjugation. I know my friends in Yaoundé know what I'm saying. When you live in Yaoundé, you are not a free man. You can't even talk freely on your phone. They can give you whatever sinecure, giving you a position, calling Dion Gute prime minister. That is a sinecure. That's a misnomer. He has no powers, and he knows that. So we must fight for the freedom of our territory. This is a rich territory. This is a country that would be one of the richest countries in Africa because of the leadership. And leadership has to do with character. The best institutions in the world are a reflection of the character and the caliber of those who run them. We cannot have kleptocrats running our organization like what's happening here in Washington, D.C. with SACO. We cannot move forward. We have to have leaders of integrity and credibility, and you will see how this movement will be launched like a rocket and will free our country.
Permit me to still drag you here. We are going to get into all those topics as we move on. How do you look at the CRTV now? I just listened to the last episode of the Cameroon Calling.
It's a shell of itself.
When I used to grow up,
if you are not a
Cameroon
top
Calling used to be a program where we used to sit down and wait on Sunday to listen to Cameroon Calling when I was growing, and it was inspiring. It was challenging the status quo. It was an embodiment of our resilience, our spirit. But today you listen to these people, they're calling beer Papa, worshipping beer, and all this. What do you think of what Cameroon Calling have become?
Capo, I am ashamed. I am ashamed to even tell people that I ever worked for CRTV, frankly, because of the deterioration. But it's the quality and the caliber of the people. Remember, the journalism profession in Cameroon is one of those professions which has been hollowed out completely. If you have any credibility, you cannot work for the government of Cameroon. That is why there's been this brain drain. People have left. I mean, I just cannot call names. Anybody who has credibility cannot live in that environment. You cannot live in a corrupting environment without deteriorating into the corruption. You have to get out of that corrupting environment and live in an empowering environment like where we are for us to do what we are doing and change the minds down there. That is why our kids, the younger generation there, are fighting because they know that this is not what we sued for. This is not what we joined French Cameroon to get. This is not what the United Nations was supposed to give us. Independence and self-government. We had a parliamentary system in southern Cameroon. So what is happening in Cameroon now is a disgrace. They are aware of it. They know it's a disgrace, but they have to survive. That's why I sympathize with them sometimes. I'm like, they can eat. They can have a job. They can feed their family until they have to sing praises and prostrate in front of Paul Biya the way they're doing. In fact, they do worse things. You know the sodomization that occurs in Cameroon for you to get an appointment and do a job. Some of them have no choice. But it's because of the weaknesses of their character where they remain. A lot of people have left. I just had a young man who graduated with a master's degree from Ibadan, could not get a job, was riding his motorcycle in Kumba to feed his family. They burned his motorcycle. He has joined the ADF and is in the bush fighting. There's a time you make up your mind, you take a decision, and you stand for the truth. Martin Luther King did not live 70, 80 years. He changed America for the short time he lived, and today streets are named after him. The young people who are fighting for our freedom are the real patriots of and they'll be remembered. So don't tell me about CRTV, don't tell me about the SDF. SDF is now run by people like Joshua O'Shea, who is a contractor for Paul Biya, who leases planes to Paul Biya. They have hollowed out every institution and transformed it into a shell of itself. So you think we have an opposition party in Cameroon? That's a joke. We don't. It has become a dictatorship. That is why.
I don't know if Mr. Mr. the press secretary wants to jump in there, but I have here, as you see this stick, this is my rubber gun from the 90s. I still keep it. I made this rubber gun from the guava trees of John Gufoncha, and I use it to fight for SDF. And people like who were in the diaspora, like Kawala, they left and came and joined the ADF. A lot of good people joined that party, and today we are seeing Joshua O.C. being kicked out of the party, Frundi running away to the United States, and Skandas Muna coming in and try to overtake the party. You once worked for the SDF. What do you think about that party, looking back at history and what that party have become?
The institutions that are based on elevating a single personality always crumble. Leadership is a relay race. You run your own lap and you hand over to other people. Frundi has hollowed out the party. It became a tribal party. It was in the hands of people like Mbandam, who were making deals, and people like Sama Francis, my classmate. They have ended in ignominy and shame. I can tell you, those who sell our people, who take money and drink the blood of our children, will end up in ignominy and shame. They will end up in disgrace. When their eulogies are written, they will know that these people were traitors. That's what has happened. You cannot survive under La République without becoming a traitor. So if they have to live in that country, they have to sell their souls. And I tell you, the devil has no friend. The devil has no friend. Paul Biya will sell every member of his family, sell every praise singer of the government of Cameroon to remain in power, even as he is in his deathbed. Mesanga Nyamdik, who is teaching in Irik, where I used to go to school, who was a praise singer for Paul Biya. Immediately you are not singing Paul Biya's praise anymore, Famendongo removes you. And even Mendoza, you see him in jail. You see him in that condition. They are living their hell on earth because of what they have done to the people of Cameroon. We reap what we sow. They are reaping what they sowed in Cameroon.
Mr. Press Secretary, you want to go ahead or I should march fire?
Go ahead. I will do follow-up questions, please.
Okay, we have come a long way. Please permit me. We will get into Ambazonian very, very soon. We have come a long way. Do you think it was any possibility that if Mr. Bivondo had managed this Ambazonian rising, there would have been some sort of an agreement to still keep Ambazonian together with La Republique, and things couldn't have evolved the way they have?
Capo, remember, let me tell you, since we launched AAC1 in 1991 and AAC2 later, the government of Cameroon ignored any dialogue with us. During that period, 44 other countries have gained their independence. And I've been telling Southern Cameroonians in Washington, D.C., we are fighting for external self-determination. There is no Anglophone problem in Cameroon. The Cameroonians who want to stay in Yaoundé can say that they have an Anglophone problem. We have an issue of resolving the perpetuation of colonialism, external self-determination. Remember these three words. External self-determination is what we deserve, is what the United Nations prescribed for us, but the British, in dereliction of duty, decided to swap territories and take the Ewe territory in the Togo land and give it to Ghana, and take our territory and give it to French Cameroon to perpetuate the colonialism. We are telling the United States government now that they must get out of their colonial mindset and stop talking about a united Cameroon and restore the freedoms, the right to self-determination of the people of the Southern Cameroons, which was enshrined in Article 78 of the United Nations Trust Territory, United Nations Trust Territory Constitution. That Article 76, the freedom of colonized people, irrespective of their education or their economic standing, was violated when the British unilaterally decided to create independence by joining through a referendum. Imagine people who had just left Nigeria in 1953. Why would you be giving them a referendum a few years later on, asking them whether they want to stay in Nigeria or in French Cameroon? So we are now enlightened, we are educated, we know these things, and we are asking for our rights. So the leadership that we must get in Washington, D.C. must be an elected leadership that can talk to this new administration. They don't take Sako seriously. They don't take Chris Anu seriously. These are kleptocrats who have nothing to do and collect people's money. But we cannot allow that to deter us from continuing. When a scammer steals your money, you don't stop working. You go back to work and you regroup and you build a better institution and you do things better. So we are in the winnowing process of leadership. We are winnowing out leaders of who don't have character and caliber, and the younger generation is going to emerge. I was quiet for a long time because I did not want to betray the memory of our leaders who are in jail, but it's necessary for me to make it very clear that we turned into dictatorship. We created little puppets and we're trying to micromanage the movement. Today that can no more happen. The job number one is to liberate the fatherland, and that's what the ADF is doing. They fought people like Choayaba because Choayaba understood this thing very early, that we had to fight these people for them to respect us. The Taliban fought the United States government in Afghanistan, and today they have been called to the table. You don't negotiate from weakness, you negotiate from strength. So we have to have leaders who can stand toe to toe and talk to our American leaders. We must stop this colonial thing. We are thinking that decisions about this war are being taken in Yaoundé. No, they are taken in Paris. Paul Biya said it very clearly. Je suis le meilleur élève du président français. I am the best student of the French president. What independent leader says that? So we did not leave colonialism in Nigeria to come and join new colonialism in French Cameroon. In 2014, I went to Scotland, to Edinburgh. The Southern Cameroons movement in North America sent me to go observe the election in Scotland. The people of Scotland have had a union with England for 307 years. But they were not happy in the union and they decided to have a referendum. A peaceful referendum took place. The majority voted to remain with England and no one person died. But when our lawyers and our teachers protested against the imposition of the French language in our courts and our schools, they brought guns to shoot us. That was the end. We could not take, there can be no negotiation about that issue. The only thing to do is to fight and die fighting.
Yeah, and that at that moment,
yeah, that brings us to what you've said: leadership in the revolution. Uncle Larry, or let me call you Brother Larry, you were the former spokesperson of the collaborative platform called SKAKOF. Give us an idea of what that leadership was in the context of Ambazonia War of Independence.
Okay, we had the third conclave in June 2017 in Ota in Nigeria. We had a meeting for a week at the Covenant University. We were about 30 of us. Ayuktabe was not in attendance. After we finished the meeting, it became clear that we needed another leader. Mr. Tasang was looking very cowardly. He didn't know how to lead this group. There was a fight, a personality conflict between Tasang and Milan Atam. And then they decided suddenly to bring Ayuktabe to come and lead the organization. And I protested. Now, for the first time, I'm telling Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians that in this meeting, I was the only one who protested, notwithstanding the fact that he comes from my constituency, because clearly he did not know what he was doing. And I waited in Lagos for the next day, and I saw this gentleman, and I asked him, "What do you know what you are getting into?" Well, it was clear that he was very excited, and he was just a puppet. That's the truth. He was a puppet being run around by Mfongalamfo and people like Milan Atam who were running him. So he didn't know what he was doing. And immediately I came back to the United States. First of all, I came
you're
to the
talking
United
about
States.
Ayuktabe.
Yes, Julius Ayuktabe. He did not know what he's doing. That's the truth. He was being micromanaged. He was a little puppet. He didn't know what he was doing.
I wanted to just interject there. Just hold that thought, please. By that time, you were already the spokesperson, right? You were elected
Yes,
as the spokesperson of SKAKOF.
Well, it was not an election. It was an appointment. These appointments were done. Tasang did the appointments. And this is the problem. A little group of Southern Cameroonians decided to choose leaders for the people of the Southern Cameroons without giving them an opportunity to decide whom they wanted to be leader. So Cho Ayaba was in Lagos. They shut him out of the meeting because they did not want him to be a contestant. And that is how that structure was flawed from the beginning. And immediately it became clear that Tasang had been elbowed out. Milan Atam took over and was micromanaging Julius Ayuktabe that you guys call Seseku. That's his name, Julius Ayuktabe. I mean, in Manu, everybody can be a Seseku, but his name is Julius Ayuktabe. He took over and was running the organization as a dictator. For example, the meeting in Zaria, they would not allow any other person to attend. That was the wrong opportunity. So Southern Cameroonians must remember, we want to restore a British parliamentary form of government. A British parliamentary form of government is a government that guarantees that the people participate in their government. We don't have one little dictator who dictates things for us. And that is how, when it becomes a one-man rule, that is why he fell into the trap of being trapped to come and negotiate in a meeting in Nera Hotel, and all of them got picked up. But if people who were enlightened and knew the wiles of the government of Cameroon, as people like us who have worked with them for a long time were listened to, we would not be where we are today. But be that as it may, we can rebuild from the ashes. We can rebuild from the failures without forgetting the sacrifices that they have made. We will be remiss if we did not take into consideration their efforts and their dedication. But we are saying that they made errors, and we are going to learn from those errors and move forward and create a representative government. In the United States, for example, the government of the United States respects only elected leaders. Sako is not elected. Chris Anu is not elected. No congressman, no parliamentary, no congressional delegation is going to entertain and give credibility to anything they say. We here in the United States have to take advantage of this new administration and get an elected leadership to be able to fight to put our Southern Cameroon issue on the map, because this issue is not known. We are lobbying against France, a member of the Security Council of the United Nations. We need to lobby really very well, to be very strong, and we don't just lobby, you show strength on the ground, and that's why I commend the work of the ADF as they're doing on the ground. You do not fight from a position of weakness, you fight from a position of strength. And if you are fighting from a position of strength, at the negotiating table, they will respect you.
All right, we will get to some of those.
Yeah.
Comrade Capo, please, let me just ask him this while we're still on this topic. What was the central mistake that destroyed SKAKOF, and why was SKAKOF transformed into the governing council, where it became, as you said, a one-man show?
Well, the best institutions in the world are a reflection of the character of those who run them. You have to go into the character of those who sat down and decided to choose Ayoktabe to be a puppet for them. Because Ayoktabe was not running the show. He was the puppet who was ahead to present. That is why they insisted in remaining in, they called him back to Lagos, to Nigeria, because the center of the control of the whole institution was Nigeria. He came to the United States. He knew the threats that he was suffering, but he decided to go back, to go meet them, because these were the people who were controlling the whole operation. So clearly, we need the participation of other leaders. We need to create collegiality. Southern Cameroonians need to be consulted. For example, let me give you another example. People left the United States here that they were going to hold meetings in Switzerland. Did they have a platform of a proposal of what they were going to table to the adversaries in the negotiation in Switzerland? No. That is the same error that John Goufoncha made in the Fumban conference. Pierre Mesmer says it in his book, Le Blanc S'en Vont. Goufoncha est venu à Fumban sans projet de constitution. We have to take over leadership in terms of the fact that our people have to participate in the process. They cannot buy every one of us. They can come and spread $40,000, $50,000 for people to open restaurants or open businesses. But there are people of character who know that they're not going to take that money. And that's why we ran and came to the United States here, where we can work, do whatever job to earn our own money. And thank God that there are enough Southern Cameroonians in the Western world, in Europe and North America, to fund this war and to get this freedom. What happened in Zaria was a travesty. It was a one-man show. It was a dictatorship, and this is something that we should learn from and not repeat it. Have I answered your question? You can follow up if I've not answered your question.
Yeah, I wanted to actually follow up on the same thing before we are moving right into the middle of where we are as a movement now. What happened before you left? You were somebody who brought in a lot of energy. Out of a sudden, you just left SKAKOF. What happened?
I left specifically because, as I told you, I knew that this Ayoktabe was a marionette. Let me tell you, we came back from Nigeria. I was the spokesperson, and I called Milan Atam to give me the name of the webmaster. And Milan told me that he could not let me even know the name of the webmaster. And I told Ayoktabe that I cannot function in this kind of organization. That's a joke. And I resigned. That's exactly
that was about the
happened.
Money, right? The money from the paper.
Of course. I told you they were creating a puppet. They were creating a group of puppeteers to be gallivanting outside in the public, whereas they are taking the real decisions. But I could not be part of that. I'm very experienced. I've been in the SDF, I've been in the SCNC, I've been in leadership, and I know what leadership is. It's collegiality, building trust and confidence among those who are working with you. So you cannot be hiding things from them, and you want from them. Look at how much sacrifice you guys are putting in this. You need to be in the center of decisions so as to be energized to continue doing this thing and to be creative. But when you are part of an organization where you are supposed just to, your name, Larry Eyong, from Manfe, from the Southwest. Oh, Southwesterners are represented in this organization. Ayoktabe is from the Southwest. No, that is not how things are done. We need people of credibility and integrity who participate in decision making, so that if people were being listened to, I give credit where it's due. I'll never forget Bo Herbert admonished me, Larry, make sure they leave Nigeria. That place is not safe. Bo Herbert, they didn't want to listen to Bo Herbert too. So this is the issue. We have people who were running a show who wanted a puppet to be presenting things in the public and giving an image of solidarity, whereas they were the people running the show from the ground. That is why they went back to Nigeria, and that is why they were caught in Nigeria. In fact, there's a Southern Cameroon lady who's now dead, may her soul rest in peace. She told me 10 days before, Larry, tell Ayoktabe and his people to leave Nigeria. They're planning to come and arrest them, but they could not listen to us anymore. That is the truth. We have to learn from these mistakes. These mistakes are not fatal. These mistakes cripple us and bring back our revolution for 5-10 years, but we continue, because this is not about us. It's about the generations of the future. We are not fighting for Southern Cameroons to go back and look for positions. I don't need a position. I have the best position in the world, granddad.
Confirm. Mr. Larry, go ahead.
Did you see, before you do your follow-up question, Uncle Larry, let me ask you this. You know, you were the spokesperson of SKAKOF.
Yes.
A war had been declared at that time. An official war had been declared by Mr. Paul Biya, which you all were aware of.
Yes.
When the war was declared, why was the strategy of the liberation? Why did the strategy of the liberation not change as well?
Because the people
from the political agitation to the reality of what was happening to the people on the ground.
The people who were running the show were not experienced people who had followed the evolution of this movement and knew exactly where things were standing. These were people who thought they could negotiate with the government of Cameroon, and they were very eager to negotiate. That is why they were lured into a trap, and they went to this meeting to go negotiate. You see, leaders have the obligation to be truthful.
Did we get it right? Excuse me, sir. Did we just get you right? You just said something. You said they went to Nigeria to negotiate?
Yes, that's what they went to do. They went to Nigeria to negotiate with the government of Cameroon. They were tricked. People were given money, and they knew. The parliamentarians from the government of Cameroon came and were in Calabar for a long time. They paid a bribe. They were supposed to pay a bribe of $50,000 to the chief of police of Nigeria. They gave him only half of the money. He was very angry. We have gotten that information now. Nigeria, which had the obligation in law to table our case for independence to the International Court of Justice, as per the Abuja Court of 2003, they did not have the political will, because it's a narco-terrorist state. They cared more about fearing that Cameroon could blackmail them by supporting the Biafran movement. But our movement is completely different from the Biafran movement, because our movement is based on law. Our territory was not part of French Cameroon when French Cameroon gained independence on the 1st of October 1960. Might is not right, force is not law. So that is why the leadership of the Southern Cameroons at that time under Ayoktabe unfortunately did not know what to do. They were lured into going to negotiate. They did not know that this thing is going to be long. This is going to be a long, drawn-out war, and we are going to win. The Taliban has fought the United States, the strongest army in the world, for 18 years. The United States has not got a headway. The Vietnamese fought the United States for more than a decade. The United States lost 55 million people there. Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, is going to lose its own army, its whole army in the southern Cameroons, and they're not going to subdue us. We just need to focus. We need to stop taking the bribes. They come and give you a little $30,000. In America, you can do any job and get money and maintain your dignity. You don't need a bribe from La République du Cameroon. They give them millions, they come and give you chicken change, and you take it, and you can't speak freely. And as I've said, any leader who has taken a dime from the government of Cameroon to betray our cause will die in ignominy. Anything that they have bought with that money will go into dust.
Mr. Larry, I don't know if you were in the middle of the conversation, because talking to some of our soldiers who were training in Dadi, a lot of people were deceived when before the declaration of independence was made by Siseko, that he is going to come to Ground Zero and march in a from Ekom together with the boys to Boya, and that the United Nations was supposed to come. All those lies that were going on. Were you aware? Did you object? Did you see the danger in using such lies to motivate people?
Well, it is the naivete of people who had not been part of the movement, who were thrust into positions of leadership without any experience. And even the errors that we made, like talking about things like Odeshi and that kind of thing, we didn't need that. We needed to train our boys and arm them. And that's exactly what we have to do. We need those boys, all they need now are RPGs, rocket propelled grenades, to wipe out those forces. Because you see, the advantage that the Southern Cameroonians have is that the Southern Cameroonian young men know what they're fighting for. You cannot bomb a determined person. An army that is determined will win the best equipped army in the world anytime. That is what we have to do. I don't want to be crying over spilled milk and attributing blame. I want to learn from the errors of the past and move forward. That is what is interesting to me. I don't want to do
we still have our
of,
pass in the
oh,
hand.
if
We still have our pass in the hand.
that is
What did you
fine
do
for historians to do.
when they
We
wanted
are
to
in
create
the
this
thicket
government?
of the war now. We have to move forward and make sure we readjust our. We need an organizer of victory, and that's what the ADF has to do: organize the victory. Because when we start winning those battles on the ground, people will talk to us in Washington D.C. We will not have to be going to Switzerland, where they'll be videotaping us and sending the information to La République du Cameroon and pretending that we're having negotiations when they are laughing at us in Yaoundé.
We are already fighting this war with a handicap, because now we have a group of people who consider themselves as government, and they do consider others who do not even consider themselves as government as one. So when they were creating this whole government thing in Nigeria, I remember in the conclave, it started all in the conclave, the second conclave or the third conclave. I forgot if you were there, where Sheikh Abi were banished from and Mangan were banished from the conclave. What objections were there? Were people on that floor who could warn of the danger of trying to create a government when we have not yet succeeded to have this country of ours?
I do not think it's the creation of the government per se which is the problem. It is the way the government is run. It is the way, the objectives of the government, the conviction of the people who were inside the struggle. You can call it anything. A nation needs territory, it needs the people, it needs a political culture, it needs a government that people can discuss with. That is why I'm talking about electing leaders who have legitimacy from the people. That is what we have to do. We have to do that now. We have to continue. ADF is having regular elections, and we have people who win elections and they move forward. We work with them. We don't want people who sit here in Washington, D.C. and are wasting money in chicken parlors, kitchen near you, and pretending that they're leaders. We are in an echo chamber, talking only to ourselves. We need credible people who can talk to leaders and remove the colonial mindset from the administration of Washington, that Cameroon is not a one and indivisible country. We are fighting for freedom. English-speaking Cameroonians are being colonized, are being forced to speak French, are being forced to go to people who have a common law legal culture, are being forced to go to courts and present cases in French. That is unconscionable. We have to fight that, and that's what we have to do, and explain our case to them. Today, even the Trump administration was ready to invite the Taliban to Camp David to negotiate. When in 2003, George Bush told them that you are terrorists, I cannot negotiate with you. Remember that Nelson Mandela was considered a terrorist until Obama came to power in America. So one man's terrorist is another man's nationalist. The most important thing is what you are fighting for. We believe in our fight, and we're going to die fighting for this territory, which is our God-given territory. And nobody can take it away from us by force.
All right. So after all the mistakes, with all the mistakes that have been made in the past, with all the lessons, as you've said, we have to learn from what others have done and also give them the credit for the effort they put forth. A lot of mistakes have been made. We have to learn from those mistakes. We are where we are. We cannot change the past. We can learn from the past. It's a core leadership principle, which
Yes.
from your own observation. You've been observing, you've been seeing what's happening. We are at war with facing a brutal dictator,
Yes.
facing France and the international systems that wants Ambazonian resources.
Yes. That is why I am supporting Choayaba. Let me tell you why. Because what they have done, I told you, the French have a philosophy. Isolement et étouffement. They isolate you, they discredit you. That is why you hear every day, Choayaba is working with the government of Cameroon. I am living in Washington, D.C. I'm an investigative journalist. I talk to people on ground zero, and I found out that that's a lie. What we must do is stop the tribalism. I don't have to support Ayoktabe because I'm from Manu. You don't have to support Sako because the Meta people are supporting Sako. The Bakweri people cannot support Sako because Bakweri people are not thieves. You do not take money from people and claim that you are doing something and you don't do it. Every one of us must take responsibility and know that we are fighting for something that is better than us. We are not fighting for ourselves. I am a United States citizen. I'm a father of 5 children who are grown and are established in the United States. I'm never going back to Ambazonia to go seek an appointment in any government. But I care about the people I left in my village. I care about those young men who graduated with master's degrees and have to buy motorcycles and do Okada to survive. And the military goes and seizes these motorcycles and burns them. I care about villages that have been burned. I care about the occupation army in Cameroon that is committing genocide and rape. I cannot in good conscience sit here in America and say I'm a US citizen. I don't care what happens to them. No, that is my duty. I was born in that territory for a reason, to put my own voice and to make my own little contribution. And in every battle, it is not just the foot soldiers who are fighting on the ground, the old mothers who are giving food, the cripple who sits by the door side and tells the army that the enemy is coming. Every one of them is making a contribution, to each by his ability, to each through his conviction. And that is what is going to happen. We have to learn. We have to continue to realize that leadership is a relay race. You run your own lap and you hand over to the next people. At my age, I'm not fighting for leadership. I'm giving advice to the younger leaders like the Joe Ayabas, those who want to listen, that this is the way to go. And this is very important. It's a collective issue.
How do you think Dr. Cho Ayaba is going to move us forward when traditionally the Ambazonian people have always been in favor of the supreme Bakwere people?
No, that is not it. The people, the Bakwere people, are a very tolerant and a very welcoming people. Do not mistake the politicians who, for their own personal gains, try to bring this whole issue of Northwest, Southwest. No, a child who is born in the Mount Mary Hospital, whether he's called Niba Ongwa, is a Boya child. A child who is born in Manthe General Hospital, whether he is called Fon or Ayuk, is a Manthe child. We must make them realize that we are in the United States. John McCain was born in a military base in Panama after he fought for this country, was locked up in North Korea for 5 years. He went back and settled in Arizona. And some people in Arizona tried to ask him, where are you from? You are not from here. He said, well, the longest place I've spent my life is in Hanoi Hilton in Afghanistan, in North Korea, fighting for this country. Southern Cameroonians who are enlightened, who are living in the Western world, will live in Western countries. They don't care where you came from. They care about the content of your character and the contribution that you are ready to make. And the earlier we learn this, the better for us, because we don't have a future. Those who are dividing us into little tribal groups are weakening us to control us better.
So let me finish the question I wanted to ask you, because we are very excited to answer that question. Now, learning from the past, we are now facing what's happening on the ground.
Yes.
Population is now awakened to the new reality. Our people were never prepared to face what we are facing today, or to deal with the kind of chaos, death, pain, suffering, deprivation, whatever you want to, however labels you want to name it. Were never. They've now embraced the war. What is it that is slowing the IGK, which transformed itself into a government? What is it about that institution that they are afraid to publicly embrace self-defense as a strategy?
Well, let me. Those people were a creation of Ayuktabe from jail, and I do not support, in good conscience, I cannot support Ayuktabe being in jail and appointing a government. That is not the British parliamentary system that we want to restore. So I don't care about IGK. For me, as far as I'm concerned, they are irrelevant. And that's why they cannot perform. I am part of those who are ready to fight to free this country. And I'm ready to make my own little contribution in the fight, because I know it's a just fight. If I die doing that, fine. Younger people have died for this struggle. Now, in the 1940s, when the Germans were trying to invade and occupy England, after Neville Chamberlain, the appeaser, came with flowers and was telling the British people that he was negotiating with Hitler, Winston Churchill came and said, I have nothing for you but tears and sweat and blood. That is what we are going to face to free our country. This is what every people who have stood for freedom have faced. Blood, tears, and suffering. Unfortunately, it's our plight, but La Republique is going to realize very soon that we are not going to give up 1 inch of that territory. And when they realize that, by the efforts that we make, that's when they're going to back out. There is no easy way.
You live in the United States, obviously, so you're well acquainted.
I'm a U.S. citizen, yes.
You're well acquainted by the splinter IG group called the Peaks, which is led by Sako and Chris Ano. All right.
Okay.
So you also know you also know from day one what they have done to the Ambazonian people in terms of, as you've said, their character, their language, their policies. You know these things. I want to ask you this: being an investigative journalist, being a leader, being someone who cares about the Ambazonian people, when you see the intoxication coming from Sako and Chris Ano, the poisoning of our people, the infighting, the blackmail, and the instrumentalization of forces to attack other forces, and therefore give, as you said, give a dog a bad name so you can kill it. When you see all of these things, what do you make of what they are trying to do? And in your own way as a journalist, how can you describe what they are doing to the Ambazonian people so that Ambazonians should become aware?
Okay, the Ambazonian people are not as simple-minded as you can think. They see through the hypocrisy, the fraud of people like Sako and Chris Ano. When you give your word that people should give you a certain sum of money, first of all, I never contributed a dime there, because I know Sako's background. I know that he's a scammer, he is a fraudster, and I know Chris Ano. I've worked with these people. He had newspapers. He would not even pay any stringer who was writing there. I knew exactly who he was, a pastor who was supposed to be delivering people from demons and the rest. I knew that this is coming. And I mean, I knew, but how can you convince people who listen only to their tribal groups, who listen only to their tribal meetings, who support people only due to their tribal affiliations? They get burnt. They spend this money, and Sako uses it to go spend money in kitchen near you, and where he sits there with the spies of the government of Cameroon. They are doing that now because they want to prolong this struggle. They are telling La République du Cameroon that we have taken this money from you, and we have to play the role. We have to play the role of destabilizer. That is what they're doing. Sako is working for the government of Cameroon. I have no doubt about that. Chris Ano is working for the government of Cameroon. In fact, his junior brother, Lekeaka, said the Red Dragons that it is Tassom who is sponsoring the Red Dragons. Where is he today? As I was telling our colleague here before we started this struggle, those who came and said county by county were either ignorant or were hypocritical. When Americans fought for their war of independence, they did not tell George Washington, to stay in Virginia and fight in Virginia. Benjamin Franklin, stay in Pennsylvania and fight in Pennsylvania. Paul Revere, stay in Massachusetts and fight in Massachusetts. They came together and attacked the British in New York Harbor, and they defeated the British. You come together. Divide and rule is a principle of the oppressor. And when you are a leader and when you realize that you are no more relevant, you hand over and you move forward. If you love something, release it. If you hold tight to it, you will asphyxiate it. These two people, Sako and Chris Anu, are not fighting for Southern Cameroonians. They are fighting for their own stomachs. Because if they left this position, maybe they will never have any other thing to do. Because I don't think they're creative enough and inventive enough to be able to look for another way to have a livelihood. So that's why they're there. But guess what? Southern Cameroonians have seen through them. And nobody's going to go back there to give them any money. They can continue pretending that they're raising money. People are not going to go back there. We in the United States are going to have to organize ourselves and conduct some form of election. During the pandemic, people are conducting elections and get a representative government that can be credible and that can be looked upon by the Biden administration, and where they can talk to us. They cannot talk to these people. These people are jokers. They know that.
DDC, go ahead with your. I know you had a burning question waiting.
No, I was just fascinated because sometimes our people, they find it difficult to accept the reality of the corruption that have become that we have all known with the Sako group. Bandam was sponsoring them. A lot of concern about a group of meta people in the United States that are bent to make sure that Sako and Chris Anu will continue staying in their game. I don't know these people, but there is news about a group of meta people that have been behind these people to make sure they keep them in the game. We are still trying to do some investigation to find out the background of these people.
Let me tell you, it is not the meta people. It is not. Don't fault the meta people. The meta people are very knowledgeable people and are very wise people. The little clique that is benefiting from maintaining this masquerade is a clique from everywhere. There are some from Manu. I know them. There are some from Meme. There are some from Mezam. There are some from Fako. It is a cabal of people who have a self-interest in maintaining this fiction. Because they came to this, the government of Cameroon sent emissaries to this country and they came and gave them money. I have people who told me, Mr. Larry, my political fortunes are going to change. I'll not call their names because they considered me as a friend and they were telling me, I saw what happened. So these people are compromised. All we have to do is just vomit them and ignore them. The Southern Cameroonians have 8 million people. Nobody is indispensable in this struggle. We are going to have people who will raise funds. When a scammer scams you and eats your money, you don't remain there and stop and continue crying. You move forward. You look for more credible people and you do things. That is what we are going to do. As far as I'm concerned, what we have to supply to the people of the Southern Cameroons is RPGs. We have to levy ourselves and put our money where our mouths are so that this struggle will be expedited. The dictatorship is recruiting people from their villages to come and fight us. We know our land. That is our land. They are coming as invaders. We will defeat them. That's what we have to do. We have to ignore these people. They're going to be detractors all the time. They're going to be Judas Iscariots all the time who will take 30 pieces of silver. But when they take those 30 pieces of silver, they will realize how they are compromised. I know them in Washington, D.C. here. They go to events and people look at them and they run away from the table where they're sitting because they know that these people are compromised. So I don't want to worry about them. These are traitors, and in every movement they're going to be traitors. Even Jesus was betrayed. We have to move forward and forget about them. We have a job to do. we have to deliver to the Ambazonian people. They are on the ground waiting on us. We have to continue this thing, and we have to stand by it.
The governing council of Ambazonia prescribed a clear philosophy, a clear blueprint, a clear roadmap for Ambazonian liberation. I'm sure as an investigative journalist, we've also studied all of these leaders. None of them presented anything as a clear roadmap, a strategy for the liberation, except the governing council of Ambazonia under the leadership of Dr. Choyaba. That strategy is doing a great work on the ground. Looking at the way the Ambazonia Defense Forces is leading the war effort on the ground, mobilizing Ambazonians on the ground, and making sure that ground zero in terms of weaponization is strong enough to put Ambazonia in a position of strength. How would you describe the change from all the blackmailing, from all kinds of names they've called Dr. Cho, in terms of his stand, his persistence and commitment to the armed resistance?
I've always told Choyaba, who is a younger brother to me, that a lie can go around the world. During that time, the truth is still lacing its boots. When the truth will lace its boots, the truth will overtake that lie. That is what is happening. Our people are gullible. They are being convinced by their tribesmen to follow these scammers. But they are realizing that the scammers have no plan. The government of Cameroon does not want to negotiate with us. They don't negotiate with people with weaklings. They want to weaken our movement and corrupt our leaders. That is what they are doing. And they have succeeded in doing that with these ones. We have to put them aside. Our eyes have to be on the prize. Eyes on the prize. Arm our boys with more sophisticated weapons and forget about detractors. That is exactly what we have to do. We don't have to allow them to distract us, because that's what they want to do. They want to distract us from the job number one, which is arming our boys and freeing that territory. That is what we should do. These are detractors. You are going to, every time the train is moving forward, the dogs are barking. That doesn't stop the train from moving forward. We have to continue our struggle. Look at the North Pole, continue mobilizing our people. More and more people are realizing those lies. Because when they say, oh, Choyaba is working with the government of Cameroon, bring the evidence. There is none. Because they want to create disaffection. They want to reduce his credibility. They want to reduce. I stand for the truth. The day I see that Choyaba is working with the government of Cameroon, I will be the first to denounce him. But
I've also been accused. I've also been accused. The same people.
Yes, because you're doing a good job. If you were working for the government of Cameroon, I would have been the one to find out, because I know they are fighting. You see, they do that. The government of Cameroon wants to tell a lot of leaders, be careful with this man, he's working for us. Because they want, no, this is not going to work, because clearly they themselves inside there, they give us critical information because they don't believe. What is the future of the government of Cameroon? What is the future of Cameroon as a nation? Cameroon is going into a very serious civil war. I can tell you today. The war of Biya's succession will start very soon. I can tell you that. Every group is fighting. They are kleptocrats. They are thieves. Every group is trying to grab power. They do not believe in a nation. The Bamlikis are not supposed to be Cameroonians. Kamto cannot lead the country. All that disaffection has created a situation where France doesn't even know what to do. But what do they want to do? They want to put Biya's son, Frank Emmanuel Biya, a man who sold drugs in the United States and was kicked out of the United States and went to Cameroon. It is not going to work. They are going to be fighting among themselves. That is when we are going to free our territory. We have to believe in this thing and don't allow people to distract us. They want us to continue fighting. Oh, Choyaba is fighting against Sako and Anu. They're fighting. We don't even know who is the leader. No, we don't want to worry about those people. We want to keep our eyes on the prize and continue arming our boys and doing the diplomatic contacts that are necessary in the right places to make America to realize that we cannot look at Cameroon in the colonial mindset that last administrations were looking at Cameroon. Cameroon is supposed to be a failed union of two entities. And as the British said in the case of Kosovo versus Albania, courts do not force estranged partners to remain in a broken marriage. This marriage, as Panjoli Tumbe says, this concubinage will not last. It has failed. In fact, the egregious human rights abuses that have been meted on our people, that alone make us to be free. We were supposed to be free. Southern Sudan gained its independence. Southern Sudan was not a separate territory from the north of Sudan. But because of the egregious nature of the genocide, the killings that our people have suffered, the international community cannot in good conscience force us to remain as part of that country. That's what is going to happen.
Now,
and that is what
okay.
we concentrate on. And forget about the SAKOF and the rest.
With that in mind, a few months ago, the Governing Council of Ambazonia created the idea of a new force in order to project Ambazonia, a new force in order to project a different level of power on the ground, because the block by block strategy on the ground spread the enemy too thin, but it cannot project Ambazonia. It cannot build confidence. Now they have built that force. They have introduced that force to the Ambazonian people. There is a lot that is changing the international community. What advice can you truthfully give to the Ambazonian people in terms of this liberation strategy of self-defense?
Okay, apart from arming our boys on the ground with more sophisticated weapons, apart from making Southern Cameroonians to contribute their own widow's mite, their own share in the liberation of their territory, we need to recruit proper lobbyists in the United States who will present a very coherent, a cogent, and specific case about our matter in front of this administration. If the Syrians have been able to meet Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, why can we Ambazonians not meet? We have to meet with credible leaders. So that is the job number one for us in the United States to do. This is a two-pronged battle. We are fighting on the ground at the military level, and we are fighting at the diplomatic level. But the military level is more important. That is why everybody has to come on deck. Everybody has to contribute. We cannot be crying over spilled milk. Oh, they ate our money, they took our money. Yes, we are going to always have people who will take the money. But guess what? They have no future. We have to continue with arming our boys with more sophisticated weapons. We have to continue at the diplomatic level, making it clear to the United States administration that this is a case of self-determination, external self-determination, liberation from colonialism. It's not a matter of uniting one country. This country cannot live together. The dictatorship in Cameroon has shown the level of its oppression, that the people of the Southern Cameroon, for them to live in peace and justice, must be a separate nation. So this is what, and it's a strategy that is evolving. As things are changing, we are learning and we are improving. That is what we have to do. We have to learn from the examples of other people who have fought liberation movements in East Timor, in Eritrea, in the Southern Sudan. We have to continue learning and adjusting and adopting. We have to remain nimble, and we don't have to allow people to distract us, for us to be going on the air to be answering Sako or Chris Anu. No, we have to move forward. We have to realize that those who were talking about county by county were enshrining tribalism. Because as I've said, when you want to fight as a nation, you have to bring your forces together and coordinate them. You cannot sit in your little place, in your little tribal homeland and continue fighting. You'll be encircled and you'll be wiped out. And that's what has happened.
What advice would you want to give other movements in terms of reorganization? What advice would you give our brother Seseko Ayoktabe in terms of his movement? What advice would you give him? How do you want him to reorganize his movement to reflect our current reality?
I don't think he really genuinely has a movement that he can run from jail, from the dungeon of the occupier. Frankly, I am thinking about those who are out here in freedom, in free Western countries where we can move forward and fight and liberate them from jail. I am not counting on them in jail to be able to running affairs out here. Everything that they are doing, the government of Cameroon is controlling it. I mean, this is not rocket science. You cannot be in Kondengi and run an organization outside here. I am thinking about those of us who are here. Pump new blood into the leadership, like people like you and Sako and Capo Daniel and people like Benedict Kwa and the younger people who are inside this movement. That is what we should do. Recruit more energetic people, pump new blood into this movement, and work on the principle of collegiality, the principle of transparency, and the principle of accountability, so that people should see what is being done, how their money is being used. Involve more people in this thing, and we're going to be free. They cannot buy every single one of us.
DDC, go ahead,
4 years. Yeah, 4 years. I think we are rounding up. We have been already. We are running down the clock already. So we have been 4 years in the revolution. We have finally stabilized the situation on the ground in terms of the school boycott of Cameroon, government schools, and transforming the private schools and the mission schools into community schools that have promised, and they are adhering to our revolutionary standard. And now, after the block by block, we are now into the stabilization force, where we are now capable of flushing out those Cameroon outposts around our territory. We have improved in terms of weaponry, developing IEDs to be capable of handicapping Cameroon movement across our territory. I want you to give the prospect of you seeing us holding the resistance as to be able to now allow the space for the diplomacy to intensify and completely change the narrative of the international community, as we are already noticing their language is changing. I want you to give us some prospect as you read the prospect of our liberation movement.
I want every Ambazonian, every Southern Cameroonian to know that where we are today is because we have exhausted all peaceful means of making La République du Cameroon to understand that we are a free people. The United Nations gave the British a mandate to prepare us towards independence and self-government. And in all the 44 countries that have gained independence since we had AAC1, every one of them has fought a war except Václav Havel, the president of Czechoslovakia, who made the velvet divorce, where Serbia and I think what's the other the Czech Republic separated peacefully. We have to spill blood and iron to get our freedom. That has been the norm, unfortunately, in every country in the world. This United States of America, here in the Washington, D.C. area where we are, in the Battle of Manassas, 20,000 people died. People fight for their freedom. Freedom is not given in a golden platter. We, this generation, will fight and die. The younger generation will rise on our shoulders and establish our freedom. We have to continue perfecting and improving on our methods, because we are a separate people. The African Union Commission on Human and People's Rights in Banjul made it very clear. We are a separate people. But what we should do is that we should not be adopting the dictatorial and kleptocratic methods that we learned from Yaoundé during our 57 years. That is what is inside the political culture of most of our leaders. Although the Ambazonians, they have this political culture of corruption and bribery. We have to rid this out from ourselves and stand on the principle of transparency, accountability, personal responsibility. We have to do that. And we have to recruit younger leaders, because every one of us could die, but this revolution will continue. That is what is important. We have to be dedicated. We live in the United States. Go to every city in the United States, you see it is a Martin Luther King Avenue. Martin Luther King did not live for a very long time, but he stood on an ideal. He fought for that ideal. He was killed for that ideal. We have to fight for something that we believe in. Otherwise, we are not worth living. That is very important. And I think Choayaba is doing a wonderful job. We should groom younger leaders who will take over from him as the time comes. We should realize that this is a relay race. One of us falls, the others continue. Our young men have paid the supreme sacrifice back home. They have nowhere to go. They have to fight for their land, and they have shown the courage and the dedication, because they know that they're fighting for a just cause. And nobody, no army, however strong, can win an army of determined people who have convictions in the things that they're fighting for. That is what we Ambazonians, that is what we Southern Cameroonians have. You cannot take that away from us. We know our territory was not part of French Cameroon. We speak English. We believe in the British parliamentary form of government. We believe in accountability and transparency. And that is what we are going to enshrine. And above all, everybody has seen English-speaking parts of Africa have developed more than 10 times the French-speaking parts of Africa. The French-speaking parts of Africa are still under the colonial grip of the French. Because the French say it very clearly. The future of France is in Africa. They cannot cede one territory, but our territory will take it away from them, because they did not fight for that territory. The British fought for that territory, and the British, through their methods of indirect rule, are providing, are ready to give us a template, parliamentary democracy, participatory democracy. That is what we have adopted, and that is what the ADF, with Choayaba and all of us supporting, we are going to prevail. That is so important. We're going to prevail.
Okay. With that, I think, DDC, I think with that strong closing, you've actually done the closing for us. We just want to ask you, is there any words of encouragement that you would like to give to our children on ground zero, our refugees in Nigeria, our mothers, our fighters, and our prisoners?
What the plight that they suffer, they did not bring it upon themselves. The curse that La République is imposing on them, it was not because of anything that they did. They are in a historical period where they will write their own history about their freedom. Paul Kagame was chased from Rwanda as a refugee with his parents. At 4 years old, he went to Uganda. He went to Uganda and trained in the Ugandan army and came back and liberated Rwanda. Our young men who are refugees should be hopeful, should have faith in our country. A separate Southern Cameroons that in the 1960s was forced to join French Cameroon. They brought that corruption, that malign neglect, and that dictatorship to our territory. It is foreign to us, and we will read it out. Our young men should know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Even during the darkest hour of the night, the dawn will appear. The dawn is coming for Southern Cameroons, when we will have a free Southern Cameroons where you can study in English. And let me tell you something. Southern Cameroons has a superior culture to that of French Cameroon. That is why Paul Biya himself had admitted, on n'a pas réussi de les assimiler. Nous avons tenté de les assimiler, mais ça n'a pas marché. Paul Biya has admitted. That tells you everything. The assimilation has failed. French by radio in Boya has failed. Those things have failed. We are now in a global culture where the internet will deliver education to our people through online education, through the superior Anglo-Saxon culture that we have. We are in the United States, we are in Europe, we are all over. We will free our territory. Hold on to faith. Do not give up in despair. Thank you very much.
Mr. Larry,
thank you very
before
much.
you want to go, I want me talk a little bit for all our mommy them where they did for ground zero. Every Monday they stop all thing for make sure say me the war know. Say people with Southern Cameroon, the one separation and outright independent. For our IDP and all the voices in the bushes. I want to make you talk something for them.
They go take Atanganji, my moyo for Akum. Where not go school, where thief a brother a certificate them. In the camp now the kind people where Paul Biya they use them that. Southern Cameroons get educated people. We picking the way they know book fine. Look the kind person where they take a may go be Minister of Territorial Administration. Not disgrace, because they know say you get to get the character for Atanganji. Somebody will not get character, will not get caliber for go begin talk. Say the President of the Republic has said, Paul Biya, it's not shame. The thing where we picking them, we mammy them and papa them when they fight for that thing we want to fight for. That thing where Ahijo be take Foncha, keep him for house arrest for Yaoundé. That time, British people, they not here more than 6 months. Now, anything where they do one for una, they will be here for year. That people where they kill with picking them, their own picking, they no go prosper. But we will fight for with territory. And thing what una do for that southern Cameroon, that thing what they do for Ambazonia, that thing where tomorrow una picking, they will write the story. Even the people they day for Bush tomorrow, they know say they be fight free the country. Now freedom we will not forgive them. We not gonna remain ninga for go be for Yaoundé. Just say Mombamenda. Don't be a name say when you feel you go be a house boy, you go be you work for administration like waiting they go move you. We go get with own country where it go be based on merit. As it be for southern Cameroons, you feel come out for Kikaiki like you come for Boya, you come out for you come out for Limbe, you come out for Mundemba, you come. They treat you according to the content of your character and the performance where you feel bring them. Now that southern Cameroon's parliamentary system of democracy, we will go bring them back to our country. And now, even at Diner today, I know say we must get that freedom because we picking the wrong show, so they be ready for die. And I praise them. That picking they die, they die for this fight. They not die in vain. Make no man of fool them. The person where they die in vain. Now that people will probably go carry them from village, but they can't fight with picking them day. Now then they go die in vain. And because they know they fight a just fight. We fight be grounded in law, it be grounded in justice, it be grounded in truth, and we will prevail. Me una hold that palaver strong, mama. Una hold am, papa, una hold am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Larry.
Thank you.
Capo, you be very happy now.
Yes, definitely.
Who am I talk for country talk? I don't talk am. I hope say my pigeon when I understand them. Because this pigeon, na manfe pigeon. It be near Nigeria pigeon.
Confirm.
With that, my fellow Ambazonia, we have come to the end of this program.
Thank you guys for the job you are doing. This is a justified cause. This is a cause to die for. If there's anything to die for, this is something to die for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we have come to the end of this beautiful and passionate interaction with an uncle, a big brother, a great patriot, someone who has sacrificed and served the Ambazonian people through the collaborative platform. He's an advisor now to leaders, an advisor to activists, and someone who is out there doing great work for our people. So, Comrade DDC, the Deputy Defense Chief of Ambazonia Defense Forces, it's always a great pleasure to hang out with you here on ACN.
The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Secretary. And for all those who are in Ground Zero, we want to thank una for open una house them, for left with me who come for una television, who can conduct this interview for this new program where we will run now for the ACN. The interview we will continue for the bring plenty Ambazonian firing brands them, me then come begin shidon would we for talk for una for Ground Zero and for all across Africa and for all places and where they watch we for television since this one na satellite TV. So then can for the end of this program, like any good thing it get an end. So me wanna prepare next week. We will continue this program, the interview, and on the prime time for Ambazonia for weekend for time we all man go get time for watch we. So na thank you very much for watch we. We'll continue for stay on for ACN for many other programs the way you go to come up for this TV channel. The next program, I think, is the program for story story plenty for Mama Najela. It go to come up. It go see continue a program with very very controversial guests. But we know
before we forget, I want just first of all, I want just thank you, and I want make Ambazonia they know the level of sacrifice where you make them for the Ambazonian people. Right now 4:00 for Hong Kong for Monday morning. Now you don't stay up all this time just so that we get this interview with our brother, with our big brother, Uncle Larry. So I want to thank you plenty. We know say sleep there for your eye. We see your eye there like because you know sleep. You don't be like some young man.
Yeah. We'll not get choice. Thank you very much. You are always very kind. You are very kind. Thank you very much.
All right, my fellow Ambazonians.
And with that, I think we come to the end of the program. So the technical team would change, and we will wait for the technical team to change. I hope the technicians.